the opportunity they've given me, Dad and Smitty, and you at the Business Journal, and the folks at Compco, that have left a wonderful legacy.
"40 Years of the Business Journal" is sponsored by Compco and these participating sponsors.
Tell us about your dad and Clarence Smith. How did they all get together, and how did this all come about?
Dad was, he'd been in the service in World War II. He was in the Coast Guard. And when World War II finished, he came back to Youngstown and got back into YU at the time in his accounting. And ended up, after doing some other jobs with a firm of Hill and Hammonds, a CPA firm in Youngstown at the time. And that's one of the predecessors of today's Hill, Barth & King. And Dad worked there as a young accountant, did audits and companies like Ohio Leather Works, and he worked for, did the audit for Diamond Steel Construction for Clarence Smith Sr. And at a point sometime in 1952 or 3, maybe 4, Dad decided he didn't want to be in public accounting. He wanted to work in the private industry. So he quit Hill, Barth & King and went to work for a firm called LaFrance Dry Cleaners. And he was the controller for LaFrance Dry Cleaners. And part of his duties was to wait until every route driver came in the evening and get his money and count it and put it in the bank. Well, that became a 12 or 13 or 14-hour day, and Dad had enough of that. And I remember him coming home and telling my mother that he'd quit his job. And she started to cry. She said, "You've got a family, you've got obligations." And he said, "I'll be back to work by the Monday." And he went out and talked to Clarence Smith Sr., and the rest is history. He, at that time, the only company was Diamond Steel. That was it. And construction people are not good accountants normally. And he was a construction person, and it was always a kind of a haphazard. And Dad put some system to it and explained what you had to get, and not just a square foot price. Soon then, the Smitty that we knew was of age and got married, and his father-in-law was a pipe fitter. Martin Poshner. So they decided, well, we'll just start a piping company to do the same kind of mill type work that Diamond Steel was doing. So that was the beginning of commercial piping company. And just a few years later, commercial piping could not buy pipe hangers. So they bought a press to make their own. And that was the beginning of Compco Metal Products, which was Commercial Piping Company, COMPCO. And that's the one that is with us today and became hugely successful in their own right. But they started off in the corner of Commercial Piping's fabricating shop with a press making pipe hangers. And I don't think they make pipe hangers anymore. So that's the way it kind of started, and then some of the other companies came and went along as interest came and the right people showed up, and they had a great time.
Tell us about how they worked together. What their day was like.
They really thought alike. Never heard them argue a point. It was Clarence's company, so he had the last say, but he really never overruled Dad. Like, if if Smitty didn't want to do something, he'd say, well, go check with Arnold. And Dad didn't say, he didn't want to do something, well, he'd say, well, we better check with Smitty on that. And then they get together and decide if they did or didn't want to. But they were friends that worked together. And, although Dad worked for Smitty, there was never that element there. It was, they were almost like partners, the way they managed things. And Smitty was happy. That allowed him to do a lot of traveling and things that he enjoyed, some other things, some politics and those types of things that were important to think what he wanted to attain in life. And Dad was a guy that went to work in the morning and was there till lunch and ate his lunch and came back till 5 o'clock and locked the door on his way out. So,
Tell me about how he always had to open the mail.
There are certain things that are necessary to run the business. You need to be at work at 8 o'clock. You need to open all the mail and look at what's going on. You need to go to lunch at noon. You need to be back at 1, and you need to stay till 5. That's a successful business. The rest will take care of itself. That's what Dad told me. And every day I get here before 8, and open the mail. So.
Yeah, do you think your dad would be opening the mail today with all this? Would he keep up with the technology?
He would be opening what you get, but the problem is that everything's electrons today, and you don't really get to open those up. They go to individual people. I think we've lost a lot of control with that. That's one of the downsides of all the good things of the internet. So.
What did he think needed to change in terms of the perception of Youngstown and what he thought we could do?
Well, it was still controlled by organized crime and to a great extent, and some of the people in power had those types of connections, and that wasn't the way Clarence operated, and it wasn't the way my dad operated. So he just kind of was off to the side of all of that, and he just felt that business should be business, and it shouldn't be tainted by all these other problems. And if we put some things out in a positive vein, that would help this. And the politics came along with that too. And so that's why he decided to invest a little bit of money there and see what happened. Dad and Smitty did that a number of times. And the Business Journal probably the longest term successful of those types of things that they did. They were in the pipe bending business, and they were in the air compressor rental business for a while, and they were in this, and things came, and they were in plastic business in Cortland. I was involved in that for a while, and things came and things went, and Diamond and Compco and the Business Journal are here.
Tell me about your mother's involvement with the paper after your dad died.
Graciously, you asked Mother to be on the board, and she enjoyed that. She just totally enjoyed the activity there, going to the board meeting, and you'd come and pick her up sometimes. She never drove much. And she never said a whole lot about it, but you could tell she was proud that she was able to be a part of that and carry on what Dad and Smitty had started. That was important to her. She kind of jumped in on the whole thing, and whatever Dad had to do, well, that was fine. That was his work, and it was important, and she took care of the rest of the stuff.
Have you seen attitudes change over the course of the last 40 years? Have you seen any changes in our business community?
Oh, sure. Many of them are really good, and some of them are not so good. But with the closing of the steel mills, so many little companies that provided goods or services for the mills, they're gone. There are certain things that I used to buy on South Avenue in Youngstown that I can't buy in town anymore. I have to get from Cleveland or Pittsburgh, and it's been that. Business seeks its own level, and we had what, 200 and some thousand people that lived in Youngstown, and now we have 50-some thousand. I don't know that that's exactly right, but it's close to that. And we have a lot more infrastructure than we, number one, need, or number two, can afford, and it's a huge problem because, mayor has a tough job, let's just put it that way.
But in terms of the attitude, when we started the Business Journal, it was in 1984, the steel shutdowns, tons of doom and gloom, tons of, con men coming into town, making big promises.
Snake oil salesmen.
Snake oil salesmen.
Yep.
And we wanted to talk about the little guy. But the doom and gloom, do you feel that's dissipated? Do you see a change in the attitude in the Mahoning Valley?
We've certainly changed. The world's changed, and we've taken our little corner of the world and changed some with it. It's not pleasant, some of this. We struggle to find jobs for non-college or high school graduates. For the guy that used to work in the mill, and he would get a job and he would make a living and he would be able to support a family, buy a house, have a car. Those jobs aren't here. They aren't anywhere. We struggle now, and we're trying to make counter help at a McDonald's a career. And our economy is getting a little topsy-turvy because of that. To find good help is tough, but there are a group of people that just haven't worked. So somewhere between those two things, we aren't getting them together. And that's a problem here, but that's over the country and probably the world, I suppose. Way above my pay grade. But I think we miss having the fellow that worked in the mill. He was a hard worker, loyal, reliable, did his job, got his paycheck, minded his own business, went to church on Sunday if he was off, and that was a great life for him. We just don't have that to offer to those folks today, and in our little corner of the world, we're a union contractor. We deal with the various crafts, and they are capable of supporting a family and having a house and a car on what they earn. And that pleases me, but that's a small aspect of our community and our world too. And we just need the mechanization, and the computerization has eliminated a whole layer full of jobs that used to support families. If I knew the answer to that, I wouldn't be sitting here. I'd be down in Washington somewhere.
But yet your company is getting work from some reindustrialization.
We're a dinosaur. We actually, we still buy sledgehammers. Things out there need to be beat. And part of our work is that. Now, the equipment we have today is so much advanced because of computerization, better safety. Sure. But our work still is, in a way, standing up steel or moving machinery, lifting things of various sorts. I call it the anti-gravity stuff. We need to pick things up. And the crane's pretty stupid. It doesn't know if it's picking up a rock or an MRI machine that's worth $750,000.
Huh.
It doesn't know.
Just to wrap up, what would you like to say? What would you like to say about your dad, Clarence, about the Business Journal, about what would you like to say?
They all have added so much to this area. The opportunity they've given me, Dad and Smitty, and you at the Business Journal, and the folks at Compco, that have left a wonderful legacy.
"40 Years of the Business Journal" is sponsored by Compco and these participating sponsors.